Welcome to a video entitled PKI. Now, this is a little three-letter acronym that you're going to see quite often anytime you approach the subject of network security in today's world. PKI stands for Public Key Infrastructure. Now, this is a collection of technologies that's kind of been cobbled together that we're going to utilize to enable users to securely exchange data. Now, the rest of the story there is not only can they securely exchange data in an encrypted format, but they can also deal with people that they don't know personally because a PKI utilizes what's called a third party identity confirmation system, where someone's going to go out and pay for the process of being validated by some trusted authority. We do this all the time in the real world without the payment part. Let's say that I meet somebody and I want to do business with them, but I don't know anything about them. I've never dealt with them before. And I'm talking to you and you say, oh, I know those guys. I've used them quite a bit. They're totally honest. They do good stuff. You can trust them. Well, I just got third party confirmation and now I feel really comfortable about dealing with them. So let's look at how this actually works on a network. A user wants to connect to a public resource, right? So they've got to connect through the internet to this web server. Maybe they're going to purchase something. Maybe they're going to enter into a contract. They're going to work for this person, whatever. And they need to somehow be sure that that resource is safe and reliable. Well, how can they do this? Well, the resource can implement a PKI to verify its identity and to encrypt the traffic with the user. So this resource is going to contact what's called a trusted authority. There are a number of these, VeriSign, Thought, and there's quite a few of them. But they're going to submit information, create an account with this trusted authority. The trusted authority is going to charge them a certain amount of money to purchase what's called a security certificate. Now, the trusted authority is going to force them to identify themselves in any number of ways. It can be simple. I want a copy of some driver's licenses. I want to see some birth certificates. I want to see some other forms of ID. Sometimes it requires an on-premise visit, signing of affidavits. It can be all kinds of things. But the bottom line is this trusted authority, or a TA, you'll hear them called, identifies the identity of that particular owner or the website or whatever the resource is. And then once they're satisfied, they grant a security certificate that also includes public and a private encryption key. Now, the user can now connect to the resource, and when they do, the user's browser has been programmed to recognize these certificates, and it says, hey, this web server has a certificate attached to it. The certificate is valid. You can trust who this people say they are. You can trust that they're not just some fly-by-night deal that's taking money from people. Now, the resource then provides the user with its public key. It passes it back across the network to them. And now the user can use that key to encrypt a request and send it across the internet to that particular person or that resource, web server, whatever. Now, the resource receives this encrypted request. It's going to use its private key to decrypt the request, and then it'll use its private key to encrypt a response and send that back to the end user. The end user uses the public key that it got from the resource. And since the resource encrypted the information with its private key, the user can use that resource's public key to decrypt the information. Now, if I can decrypt what he encrypted, I know I'm dealing with him and vice versa. So this is a really cool way of taking care of this whole thing. Now, keep in mind, a PKI requires considerable planning, and it can even include local certificate servers. Now, local certificate servers, let's say I can set one up in the Microsoft Windows operating system. I can set up a certificate server in my local organization, and I can hand certificates out to users, to other servers and machines in my department, because we can use certificates for authentication, for all sorts of things. But how would anybody know to trust my local certificate server? Well, I can contact the trusted authority and pay them for what's called a certification server, and it will apply a certificate to my server once I've satisfied them, saying, hey, any certificates that this server creates has also been signed by us, and since you can trust us, you can trust them. Because if they start giving out certificates and stealing stuff, we're going to turn them over to the authorities. So that's what happens there. Now, once certified, that local cert server can issue trusted certificates to other resource services. Now, let me just point this out. The process that you saw in the video here just a few minutes ago involved using two keys, public key and a private key. And this is called asymmetric encryption. These keys are algorithmic opposites. If I encrypt with a public, I can only decrypt with that private key. If I encrypt with a private, I can only decrypt with a public, okay? So with those two keys, I can keep one private and give the public out to as many as I want. And anytime I can communicate with someone, I know they're using my public key. And if they're communicating with me with a public key, they know they have the owner of the private key. So when data is encrypted by one key and the other key is required to decrypt it, we're looking at asymmetric encryption. Now, there is a process out there where I can use a single key on both sides. It's the same key to encrypt and decrypt, and this is called symmetric encryption, though it's not quite as secure as public and private. Now, actually in PKI, it's using both of those, but I don't want to go that deep here and confuse you right now. So for now, just understand what PKI is, how we use it, and what it does for us.